Hello, and welcome back to. So I'm going to be basically trying to play the Imperial Wizard campaign on Challenge Level 7. So let's begin and obviously take the recruits and take the Imperial Mortar. That'll help us deal with some early enemies, and it'll also force them to come to us rather than us trying to go to them. So the problem with this build though is the fact that we're heavily reliant on dealing a lot of damage early on. So we'll go from the top and then we'll go back down. So yeah, there we go. Right then, so some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about is I'll shoot the Goblin Wolf Riders because they're the scary unit of the enemies that the enemies have. So yeah, but yeah, I wanted to talk about 343 Studios and how they're rebranding to Halo Studios, and it's kind of sad in my opinion because you think that they're rebranding to focus only on Halo, but recently Halo hasn't been doing too well. Obviously, the corporate suits always want video games to be going up and up and up, and unfortunately Halo has not been hitting their up and up targets. So the fact that they're rebranding to Halo Studios from 343 Studios probably means that they're not going to be working on anything other than Halo, because the corporate suits want the company to basically prioritize making money over anything else, and the best way to do that is to basically focus all the creativity down onto a single game. Because if they're just focused on only Halo, then obviously, hypothetically speaking, Halo should be doing quite well, shouldn't it? But the problem with that is the fact that video games are a creative process. So if you stifle the creativeness by just forcing people to make the exact same slop every single day, then obviously it's going to delete creativity and it's not going to make good games anymore. That's basically the gist of it. That's my opinion on the matter. That's terrible role. Just getting a 1. I've been trying to actually record this series for quite a while, and I just constantly kept getting 1. So whatever happens in this series is whatever I'm going to go with, and I don't care what happens. If we die on the second battle, then that is what I will upload, because I've quite literally had. This is like the third attempt. The second attempt was slightly better, where I made it to the Act 1 boss, but I quite literally lost because my horse archers, they basically just ran off the field, and that was a sad moment, wasn't it? And they were supposed to get like an 8 on discipline rolls, and they failed twice. So they just ran off the field, and that was that. So that was definitely sad. Definitely would prefer not to have my archers run off again. So I'm just now realizing I probably shouldn't have moved up so close, but that's fine. Doesn't really matter. So I'm really happy with this mortar pick, although I would have preferred to have at least some cav or something like that to maybe act as like the front lines, or maybe even act as like a side charge unit. But yeah, it's I'll live with it. That's for sure. But yeah, anyway, having a company be rebranded to focus only on one thing is definitely not ideal, I guess. And yeah, it's all happened because Halo has just not been hitting their targets. The game's relatively successful, but this, for Microsoft wants to be doing better and better every single day. The Xbox hasn't been doing all too well with their passes and whatever else. So there were rumors that Xbox might even be sold or something like that, but I don't actually believe that. Anyway, moving on from such things as Xbox potentially being sold, because I don't really think it's going to happen all too much. So thinking about the positives, I guess. So I guess there is some science stuff that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk about specifically potential cures for type 1 diabetes. It's scientists have been basically experimenting, and they have some conclusions that they're quite happy to share with the world. And the fact is that some scientists have been able to extract cells from a person's body, and then they were able to put the gene in for insulin, and then they were able to multiply the cells, and then they were able to put the cells back into the human body, and they produced insulin. Now the problem with the current research is the fact that the cells currently nobody knows if they're going to continue reproducing and creating insulin, or if they're going to stop. So that's the only question right now, is if this is going to continue, or if it's just like once and done type of situation. Because in lab conditions it worked perfectly fine, but in the real world it might not work in the exact same manner. That's the only thing that people are currently waiting on, to see if this is a procedure that's going to have to always happen, or if it's a one-time off type of situation, because it just works very nice indeed. But unfortunately I am just going to move this guy in here to take the charge, because I don't want the Imperial Mortar to charge. But to be fair, I don't know. The Boider should be closer to the Halberds than the Mortar. So yeah, there we go, that's perfect. Because sometimes you think one unit is closer than the other, and it turns out it's not. So, it's always nice to not always jinx yourself, I guess, with these types of situations. So very nice. Do something like this, and that's side charge on these guys probably. I've got to try to prevent them from charging the halberds. We'll see what we. But yeah, that's definitely nice. I can still charge them, can't I? Yeah, I should be able to still charge them. Worst case scenario, I just charge the back of these bow riders and that's fine. So they've got their routing. Cool. Basically having insulin is, not having an insulin pump or anything like that is massive, and it's definitely going to improve the lives of many people if we can get this research finished and completed, I guess. But yeah, it's just the concept is kind of it's already promising. So big things ahead, maybe. If all things, if all things work out and there's no negative side effects, which that's why we have trials, to find any negative side effects, if the body rejects the cells or not, stuff like that. That's why it's currently still under, why it's still currently being investigated, isn't it? Still being researched to find all these sort of stuff, so then you don't accidentally cause harm to people, I guess. So very nice. And then all ones on ranged attack rolls. Yeah, I'm going to have to pick this because it's really important that we don't hit ones. And then get replenishment, and that's very nice. Obviously increase the width of these guys, because the wider they are, the more attacks they're going to have. And do the same for these guys over here. Cool. Even though it makes it slightly awkward maneuvering around, it's perfectly fine. Okay, right, so I can also talk about Google and the American competition people. The people that are for competition, they found Google to be a monopoly. That's because they got Android, they got Google, and then the search engine, and then they got YouTube, which is also technically a search engine. So Google was found to be a monopoly, and now it's basically a question of what's going to happen. Currently, the only talks are fine, but there are potential talks of also Google potentially being broken up between, and no, there's no evidence of what if it's going to get broken up or if it's just going to be a fine. But the word that some people have been talking about is that Google could be split one of three ways. It's either YouTube getting split from Google, it's either Android, or it's the Google search engine being split from Android and YouTube. So that's basically the talks that are going on. And YouTube being split from Google is going to be really painful, because Google obviously provides YouTube with all of its adverts partnerships. So if you see like an advert on YouTube, it was most likely put there through Google. You don't just get random adverts on YouTube. Everything is sorted out by Google. So Google potentially not being the advertiser management company for YouTube is going to be problematic, because it's going to be harder for YouTube to find advertisers without Google. Obviously, massive business model and stuff like that. YouTube really does benefit from economies of scale there, because Google finds all the advertisers for YouTube. So stuff like that is going to be really painful on YouTube if it does get split. But as I've said, there's no guarantees. I feel like the Android is going to be relatively okay. But yeah, the whole reason why this even started is because obviously Google didn't really want to allow third-party applications on Android and stuff like that. Basically that was a monopoly, because multiple search engines weren't happy with that, because Android was like a monopoly. And so here we are now, and Android was found to be a monopoly. So yeah, it's we'll see what happens, won't we? They're hoping for the best. Obviously the worst could happen, and but it's good for shareholders, it's good for everyone else except for Google themselves, because every single shareholder is going to get a share in both companies. So yeah. But if Google does take a fine, then that's kind of bad for shareholders. So the only real bad solution is obviously Google having to pay fines. That's the only bad solution really here. So if you're a shareholder, that's one guy left. That's a bit unfortunate, but he's going to continue routing because he doesn't have anyone else with him. That's very nice. And yeah, it's very similar to kind of Apple's whole deal, where in Europe sued basically Apple for monopolistic rules. Apple was found to be a monopoly. So yeah, but it's slightly different from Apple, because Apple wasn't accepting any other third-party payment applications on its basically on their iPhones, because Apple would, if you had like an app in Apple App Store, the only way you could accept payments was through the Apple App Store. So obviously all payments went through that, and that was a monopoly, because Apple took a massive cut of every single sale. And when they got told to remove that, they basically said we're gonna basically we're gonna allow other companies to use our stuff, but we're gonna have to charge them per installation on the Apple App Store. So that's how they tried to make their money back. and then everyone else was like, that's still stupid because that's even worse than before. And so now Apple is kind of forced into a position where they have no choice. And so yeah, that's something similar happened to Apple as what is happening to Google. We'll still have to see, won't we? And then yeah, I'll take some more halberds, yeah, sure, why not. And then that gets us an upgrade as well. I'm going to increase their skill because I would like them to hit more of their, attacks. Yeah, obviously get that Hex -3 defense. That's going to be really useful, I guess, for Archer Fire and things like that. Vitality, I don't think it's really necessary, is it? No, it's not. But yeah, let's continue on. I don't really need that. I'll save the money for later. Let's see what we have over here. So I'm going to complain some more about video games, and specifically I'm going to complain about I'm going to complain about early betas and early access type of stuff, because it has no difference from just like a straight up release of the game. There is no difference, but for some reason it's sold for extra. Yeah, it's just a pain. And usually, like, even if you do have rewards for being an early access purchaser and stuff like that, for wasting like £20 more than the original release, depending on where you are, for games like Ubisoft, obviously Star Wars game, it went from like £70 for the full release to like £130 for the early access release, which was crazy. So for stuff like that, it's obviously more, but like on average, it's usually like only 20 more pounds for getting a really buggy game earlier, and potentially content that was supposed to release with the game but was held back because it was completely unfinished, just like the game itself that released extremely buggy. Yeah, that's a lot of damage, isn't it? Yeah, that hurt me a lot. But yeah, it's just really silly that games that are basically unfinished are getting released early, and then people are expected to pay for it. I just don't find that acceptable. Come on, save that. Okay, we saved more than the halberds. That was really nice. Because yeah, the halberds definitely did get beaten up quite heavily. Ripped the halberds. Luckily the crossbowers aren't still shooting at us, because they're still walking towards us, but they could have probably definitely shot us over here. Maybe not. Who knows? And obviously fireball this as well. So yeah, stuff like that. I guess it's just really don't like early access. It just ruins the video game industry, and supporting it also ruins the video game industry. So whenever possible, just don't buy early access games. It's just not worth it. Apart from getting a bad product, potentially you could also just supporting bad practices is just not good. So I don't like that, and I'm never going to support it. And yep, and let's see, we're going to fire on this guy, drop miners, try to deal some damage. The reroll ones really come in handy there. But yeah, I could still get double snake eyes, can't I? That's still something that happens really common. So yeah, save this, very nice. And then yep, that's crossbows over there. Just going to shoot them. Yeah, there we go, cool. I don't know why I expected this. I don't really have any, not many models left, so it's a bit unfortunate. Let's see if the halberds can do well, and they do in fact do okay-ish. It's not enough to completely destroy the guy, but I'm just going to finish him off by charging after him. And I also wanted to talk about an energy drink made by Leo Messi, and I wanted to talk about his drink, and that was called Mast. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because the people behind Prime, KSI and Logan Paul, and specifically the same people that released Lunchly, which was quote unquote inspired by Lunchables, and they even admitted that it looks really similar to Lunchables. Even in its name, Lunchly is very similar to Lunchables and stuff like that, and its packaging is very similar, and its concept is very similar. Just like a lunch type of snack where it's like a couple of crackers, a Feastables bar, and Prime energy drink, stuff like that. And yeah, it's just so similar. But the funny thing is that Prime, run by Logan Paul and KSI, is now suing Messi's energy drink called Mast because it's too similar to Prime. Yeah, the people that made Lunchly are suing another company for being really similar to them, and they're being sued back by Mast because they sent like a threatening letter that if they didn't change their packaging and name, Prime was going to sue them, and Mast was like, that's anti-competitive laws because they're in Europe, and they're basically suing Prime now. So yeah, as though Prime didn't have enough lawsuits from the packaging plant that they didn't pay, they now also have a lawsuit from Mast as well for anti-competitive laws, anti-competitive behavior, I guess, using the anti-competition laws in Europe to fight their case. So yeah, stuff like that is really interesting, I guess, because yeah, it's well deserved as well. It's good for consumers. that Prime is getting sued for this, because big companies always try to push the little guy around. Monster Energy drink has a really similar problem, where it's like really tries to sure, no, I'll take the Enchantress, I guess. Additional attacks, why not? Monster Energy drink is well known for, like, if anything has a name Monster in it, and Monster Energy drink usually tries to bully them out of using the word monster in it, and they especially try to bully people out of using the same font as them. So yeah, stuff like that. So don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next episode. Bye bye.